All good, all good. It's a beautiful, peaceful late Sunday evening here. Yeah, nice peaceful Sunday evening. Just been for a nice walk. Beautiful. It's late in the evening, nearly 8ish, and yeah, I was just going for a nice walk. It's been a nice weekend, and tomorrow's a bank holiday Monday. I was doing a bit of reflecting on how working at the Charlton Soccer School at the Charlton Health and Fitness Centre, Hopwood Hall College, the Middleton campus, many years ago, around about 96, around about that time frame, made a big impact on me. And I was sort of reflecting on it, and I was sort of doing a bit of reflecting today, and I just sort of, I noticed this reference I got from the reference here. And as I asked the football coordinator, Paul, at the time for a reference, because I was planning on going out to do some coaching in the USA, and like a summer camp for Britannia Soccer in 97. So I asked Paul if I could have a reference, and he kindly obliged. And I was looking at the sort of reference. He talks about how I present myself well and always well equipped, and my attitude is fantastic, along with the rest of the coaching team as well. About how enthusiastic coach I was, with plenty of ideas and happy to help any way I can. And I like reflecting on that reference, as I sort of like today, just looking through a few old things, a bit of nostalgia and sort of cleaning that sort of stuff. And it sort of made me realise that for me, well, part of it for me was after sort of trialling in mid-November 95 with Rochdale Football Club for a couple of weeks or so. Part of it was when I spoke to there was a youth team coach there, and after a few days training with the first team, they said, okay, you can train with the youth team. And the youth team coach at the time, I was quite a raw street football. I only started playing state league football in Sydney at about 18, 19-ish. So prior to that, it was more like a street football. I played for a few local teams. But so the coach at Rochdale said, maybe you sort of do a few courses, and that he said there's some courses. He signposted me some sort of courses that were going on at Hopwood, through the FA. So I did the football leaders, and I signed up afterwards for the prelim, and it I felt sort of coaching, learning to coach players would help me as a player, because I was quite raw and didn't have any sort of coaching, so to speak, only other than that sort of street football, and then sort of going to state league. Obviously, in England at the time, the game, at least in the lower leagues, was really physical. So my role at the time, I'd coach at the soccer school on Saturday mornings, and sometimes I'd run sort of camps. So I got involved in sort of coaching at those, and alongside that, I'd work in the factory. I was doing some trialling at other clubs. I also was playing some football in the Northwest Counties League as well. And sort of what I learnt about that was that when you're sort of coaching someone else, or you're coaching, you start to learn you break the game down to those basic fundamentals. And I started learning how to apply the learning to myself as well. And it was fantastic. But what was unique about the environment, the academy at that point, it was in I think the building now has been knocked down as the old sort of fitness centre. Well, they knocked that sort of building down, and the fitness centre ended up moving, a new high-tech facility, and so on and so forth. I don't know what happened to the soccer schools, at what point they stopped running, or I don't know what Sir Bobby Charlton's involvement was with the schools. I believe he sort of like stepped away from involvement on that level. And I never had the opportunity to meet Sir Bobby Charlton, who passed away in 2023. But I never sort of had the chance. But I did see him one time. It was like an Easter residential in '96, and I was doing a prelim, football FA prelim with the FA based at the college, and at the same time I was doing some coaching for the Bobby Charlton's soccer academy at that point. And I did sort of like, see him very, very briefly. And I suppose being a young lad at that point, I didn't have it in me to go up, and I was in awe, complete awe. Obviously he's a legend and huge, and I grew up a Manchester United fan as well, and to sort of to be in that situation was sort of complete awe. I suppose these days you'd probably go up and ask for a selfie, but more to the point, I believe actually when Hopwood Hall College opened in '92, he did the opening. That was my understanding anyway. But I think a lot of people sort of considered the soccer school, the Bobby Charlton Soccer School at that Hopwood Hall Middleton campus, as like the home of the soccer schools, because obviously it's sort of the location. And I think some of the big learnings I had was around there. Great coaches, and Paul was fantastic. Paul Reynolds fantastic as well, working with him, who managed the programs, was sort of creating an environment, to create like there was like an environment there, really, really great environment to be around. And I learned, and I've taken that with me, not just sort of like in my roles in football, but also lecturing as well, creating the environment and valuing people. If you value people, whether they're footballers, whether they're students at a uni or a college, if you sort of value them as people, it goes a long way to creating a positive environment. That's sort of my take on it. And I suppose it was like an honour to work there for me as well. For me it was a huge honour to think that there I was doing some sort of coaching. And, no doubt Sir Bobby Charlton wouldn't put his name to anything sort of lightly. Like I said, I don't know what his involvement was eventually in the soccer schools, which were run across the UK and the world, I think, as well. But the whole point of the video is to sort of highlight for me the big takeaway at that point, as a raw footballer for me, who never had any sort of academy coaching, so to speak, or to speak of, learned to coach others had a big impact on me as well. And also, what had a big impact on me too was understanding how important the environment is that you create for players and staff. And I've sort of carried that with me professionally throughout different roles I've had in football and in academia as well. But that's sort of my take on it. It's always great to hear your take on it. If you, at some point, went to the academy, feel free to sort of, comment your experience or any take you've got on how coaching others can help ourselves as a player, or your take on the importance of creating a really good, positive environment for players. And it's always good to hear your take, and that's my take on it anecdotally. I'm not here to give any suggestions. I'm not here to give you advice or suggestions otherwise. It's purely anecdotal based on my own experiences. I always like to share things and these reflections, but feel free to sort of comment your take on it.